response?
No, I didn't. I sent you an email this morning. I was waiting, but I guess I'll have to FOIA it. Would you check one more time before?
Yeah, I'll forward it.
Thank you. What did you do? Go skydiving too?
No, going into a natural mineral spring down there. About a 35 foot.
I don't know about you commissioners going on vacation from now on. I think you all just gonna have to be here and work.
Yeah. Yeah. I waited until I tested negative.
Oh, good. The sheriff will be here in jail.
Yeah, but you can't get into Jamaica without a negative. You have to have a negative test.
Yeah.
So you have to test. No, I agree. I don't think I wasn't sick.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's why somebody's
I feel the same that I feel right now.
days afterwards, you're
And you?
in you. And that's
Get it? Yeah, that's probably what happened because, you know, I was sick, but no more sick than I am now. Stuffy nose, cough. I see a warning. I was around
Yeah, I
Phil.
was looking at your name tag. I was just...
Rodney ended up in the hospital. Some injection though, and he was fine. No, him. Rodney. The key. It's treatment. Doing exactly. So. Problem. But, I mean, I don't plan on getting. I'm not tested unless I have to. You know what I mean? My dad's like fucking tested.
Yep.
Good. How are you, Ray? Tomorrow still?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. coffee over there? Oh, shit. There's a truck in there.
There's a, I didn't know whose it was.
Yeah, we got. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bear.
Present.
Commissioner Walls. Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Duckham. Commissioner Pileski. Commissioner Alexander. Commissioner Williams.
Present?
Commissioner Snell.
Here.
Chairman Shotwell.
Here.
6 present.
Thank you.
I'll move those.
Support.
Aye. I will move to approve.
Support.
Aye.
This here, we had made a change. This is a change in our original plan for MARPA funding. At the time, we did not realize that the state was going to withhold basically road tax dollars, the tune of over $3 million in the last 2 years. And frankly, to be very frank about it, was we had already dedicated projects. We're dedicating, we're planning projects and approving projects. So it's not like we can just cut enough to save that. We still have to do our job of plowing snow and finishing roads, and these roads need to be approved. So we're asking that we dedicate or re-appropriate this money from ARPA to the JDOT. Questions? Sir. Tony.
So the original list of all of the ARPA projects we're anticipating, this was not included in that list.
It was included, but it wasn't, to be frank, it wasn't anticipated that we would need to fund it. And I'm not sure exactly how that went. Did you want to address that at all? Because I didn't make that original list, that was Christopher.
As it was explained to me, and I apologize, I hit traffic, sorry I'm late. Grand entrance, but it was explained to me that it was part of the request that JCDOT had. About $3 million at that time is what was projected for lost revenue.
And is what has been lost. We just determined 21's loss was 1.7.
Correct, yep, 21's loss was higher than we expected when we looked at the 19 versus what we actually got.
So for 2020 and 2021, you had anticipated some reduction in the state funding. It's just that the reduction, as it came out in the final figures, was greater than what you had anticipated
Correct.
you were going to be losing?
Yeah, because if you recall, when they did that list, it was during the 2021 year. So we looked at what MTF we had gotten for the year and tried to predict it. But MTF, when you look at the attachments in the write-up, it's a lump sum for the year. It's not by month. So it's not typical that every month is exactly the same. So we did our best on looking historically at how they came in each month and what the ups and downs were and tried to predict that.
It's just using ARPA money to make up the difference between what you had assumed you were going to get from the state and what you actually got from the state.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that I do have the list in front of me, and it does show the $3 million original, and we just added to it the additional from the loss.
Correct.
Darius has a question. Darius?
Thank you. So is this going to change any of the plans that we've made thus far? Is it going to create a shortfall or?
This replaces the money that we had in our budget to do the matching projects that we had in those years.
Oh, okay.
So it helps.
Gotcha. I understand. Thank you. Nothing further.
Of course, part of the concern is we haven't seen what the $22 are going to be yet. When is it, March, before we'll know?
Yeah, for the first payment, because they're always 2
Do
months behind.
anticipate continued reductions in funding from the state, so it's why we've been making modifications and so forth in how we do business to reduce costs.
Correct.
I believe Commissioner Pileski had a question.
Thank you, Mike, appreciate it. And we've had some email traffic over this, so I'm just going to be kind of commenting or making sure I understand clearly. This is effectively replacing monies that you normally would have gotten out of Act 51 to do the stuff you normally would do. I've had comments and requests from townships in my area, notably Pulaski and Hanover, which do not have local designated funds for their matches, that perhaps these dollars should go to somehow fulfill the local match of monies that are required to be done in improvement projects. And I think it's been made clear to me, and I hope to them, that the intent of these particular dollars we're talking about this morning is not to fill the local match that would be done for improvement projects, but to carry on the work that you would normally do, and any local match would still have to be arrived at from some local source, whether it's from township general funds or some millage they might choose to put on, or from some local assessment with respect to any particular road that might be done. Am I right on that?
You are correct.
Okay. And I'll pass this information along to those townships to kind of reinforce that. Regrettably, I mean, we want to see the work done. We want to be partners with JCDOT, but the intent of these dollars is not to fill that local match.
Correct. These dollars that you guys have in front of you are to fill the lost revenue that we had in the 2 years.
Okay, Will, this will go through the regular process. You'll see a committee, then full board. Thank you,
Thank you.
Angela. Next up, we have the approval of the sale of surplus properties. Rick and Doug Beiswanger have been handling that for us. Gentlemen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Chair, we would like to sell some properties today. I have with me our esteemed Realtor, Doug Beiswanger. Morning. And you have the documents that outline all of the offers, and we're just seeking approval to consummate these deals. We're here to answer questions and seek approval.
Commissioner Bear. Good morning.
Morning.
Commissioners, we've discussed some of this multiple previous meetings. I've read all this. I will vote no on all of this because philosophically, I do not believe these types of things should be passed at study session. Study session isn't where you pass policies, make decisions. In my mind, this goes to the full board. That way the public has more chance to see what's being presented. What these gentlemen are going to present to us today, the public has never seen, so they can't respond to it. On our agenda, we've got item 6, ARPA funding. It says action, comments, discussion, full board. The jail edition, the action is comments, discussion, full board. The only one that I agree with is Human Services, where they're talking about the collective bargaining unit. We don't have a way of altering that, so that's the one type of action where the board is pretty much just a rubber stamp. I've been told we can't go back and change that collective bargaining. But on these two real estate actions where it says comments, study session, action, the only action I will take will be to refer this to the full board.
Other questions, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think in the past I've also expressed the view that Commissioner Bear has just made, that I will joyfully vote in favor of the sale of these properties at a regular commission meeting, but prefer not to do so at a study session unless there's some overarching urgency that requires us to act immediately. And so, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to explain why I'll be a no vote today should this come up for approval. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'll voice my support for that unless there is a pressing need for something to be, approved today. But as Mr. Beiswanger knows, there's always delays in this, and I think this is something that needs to be approved at a full board meeting. So I would ask that question, if we could, of Mr. Beiswanger, if there is anything that's pressing that has to be done now.
I appreciate the opportunity. When the properties were first listed last year, we knew that we would collect offers, market the property, continue to collect offers, and then put together a package for the county. That time frame that was estimated, as you well are aware, has pretty much tripled in length at this point. The very large, vast majority of these purchasers are Jackson County residents. They are, in almost all cases, meeting or exceeding the listing price offered on public sale through the MLS, through Zillow, Realtor.com, multiple other sites. So for the public to say that they weren't aware, they were marketed in print, in on the internet, and all of these properties had a physical sign placed on those properties. In some cases, there were as many as 14, 15, 16 offers on these properties, and this pile, or this list compiles the highest of those offers. So I think that the point that the public wasn't aware, honestly, is a moot point. They were notified in multiple facets. Most of these buyers are local Jackson County property owners that, in my opinion, deserve a timely response from their Board of Commissioners. They've waited and waited and waited. And I honestly don't feel that it's fair to them because they are your constituents as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy? Well, I'm just going to ask, because I don't consider that a direct response to Commissioner Snell's question. What is the pressing need that it needs to be done today that it couldn't be done in 2 weeks at the regular board meeting?
There's always two sides to the coin. Any of these buyers at this point, because the timeline has been so delayed, honestly, on the seller side, any of these buyers could terminate and move on. So there is a potential for a financial loss to the county on any of these offers. So in any of these situations that have multiple offers, if the county doesn't move forward and loses that buyer, the total number that was reported to you could be drastically impacted.
Commissioner Bear?
Got a question. Your documents say there's a list price for these properties. Who determined that list price?
A market analysis was prepared by our firm and provided to the county.
Okay, so your firm established the list price.
Our firm made a recommendation to the county, and the county approved the list price.
I don't recollect voting on that. Do any other commissioners recollect voting on a list price for these properties? No. Okay, so...
No, you wouldn't, Tony. It's what you give the administrator controller authority to do for you,
Okay.
is to do that type of stuff.
All right,
So that
your
way
firm-
we're not caught up in the minutia of setting prices where we may be giving somebody an unfair advantage.
Sounds good.
Yep.
So your firm established a list price and our administrator controller, through board authorization, approved the list price?
That's correct.
Okay. You say signs were put up on these properties. People that might be interested in buying some property probably don't look at a lot of legal notices in the paper. I wouldn't start there. So how was this advertised, or how was the information gotten out to the public?
To reiterate what I said, I didn't mention anything in print. I stated physical signs on property, the MLS network, so that anyone that's looking for property that's working with a licensed real estate professional has access to, not just Jackson. So we belong to a system called Flex, which allows us to data share as far as Detroit to the west coast of Michigan, Traverse City, Grayling, almost all the way to the bridge. All those agents have access to this information now. We also advertise these on sites such as Zillow, which is the largest real estate platform out there to view properties, homes, Realtor.com. The vacant land parcels appear on Land and Farm. They appear on our website. The MLS syndicates to every real estate company out there that belongs to the MLS. So these all appeared on ERA sites, RE/MAX sites, Century 21, Howard Hanna, Production, Sprout, Good Earth. They appeared on probably 100 different websites. But did we do a physical mailing to everyone surrounding every property? No, we did not.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that answered your question, but we did not simply create a printout.
Okay. All right, I thank you for your explanations. That works, satisfies me. I guess I'm comfortable with the way you went about it. The only thing I'm still not comfortable with, and I've mentioned this at many meetings, is somebody shows up here and says, oh, you got to do this now. It's got to happen this meeting. Well, if you need it by a deadline, you should have brought it last month. I've told other people this, I find it personally offensive somebody comes here and says, gotta have this decision today. No, you're not getting mine today. People start bringing this stuff earlier.
Commissioner, I was invited to be here today. I didn't appear for no reason. Thank you.
Commissioner Snell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quite frankly, I was satisfied with his answer of timeliness. I know how real estate deals can go south real quickly. And there were a couple of properties that I had clients interested in. Whenever I have a client interested in one of those properties, we do what's called a market analysis. I think his list pricing was pretty spot on. I think we should be satisfied with the results that we've gotten here. And, you know, we've got some substantial offers over list price. And I would hate to lose that because of 2 weeks. I've seen deals go away in 2 days. 2 days of delay. So maybe it does behoove us to approve those now. And I think we've had plenty of notice that this is going to happen. You know, we've known that these properties have been for sale. We've just been waiting for this part right now. Thank you.
Rodney?
Well, as I see it, 12 weeks ago, we were all notified that this property would be coming online for sale. It was determined that it was extra property that we didn't need, and it was our choices to put this property back out on the tax rolls again and get some potential buyers. We have those buyers now, and they've been online, a lot of them, for a long period of time. I don't expect them to keep their bid for 12 weeks, which it's nearly coming to at this point in time. And it's not something that just came up today. It's something that's been here for a long time. And I think it behooves us not to act on this, to put these properties back out on the tax rolls so we can start collecting some money on them. I think the constituents out there that step forward to purchase these properties have done so in good faith, and I think it's our obligation to respect that honor. Thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy? Just real quick, first of all, thanks for your work, and I don't want you to feel like you're being attacked by the commissioners today. We appreciate what you've done. It's very professional. The offers look good. Just one direct question. Do you feel there's a strong potential if we don't approve this today that we could lose a buyer?
Sir, I believe you could lose multiple buyers.
Okay.
They're extremely frustrated. If I look at the first property on this list, Amos Street, that buyer has utilized this property for years under a letter from a former supervisor of Blackman Township that said they could use the property, even though Blackman didn't own it. So that specific buyer has been stressed, extremely stressed over this situation because it's fenced. He's got an above-ground pool on part of the property. He's got access to his back garage. He was under the assumption that he'd be able to use that property forever. That specific buyer calls me, I would average at least once a week because they're extremely scared that they're going to lose that property because they thought they could use it. That's just one example of the people that have hung on during
So,
this
you know,
process.
normally I would be in the same camp as Commissioner Bear, but if there's pressing need, that's fine. I see there's a few that were taken off that we're going to come back with. I would just ask that we could go through our standard process, and maybe the administrator could tell you what that is so that we don't have to do this again on the remainders.
Sure, I'll do whatever you ask me to do.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I was actually just getting ready to say the same thing. I think we would do our community, the the best service by going ahead and moving forward with this. I hate for us to lose the opportunity to sell off some of these properties in the event that, God forbid, in a day or by the end of today, we not pass this, and we have several individuals that say, you know what, never mind, and now we have to go back to the community and say, hey, we had an opportunity to take care of this, but we missed it. However, I do agree. I think that this should go through our normal voting practices. However, I think just due to the financial piece of this, I think that we should just go ahead and move forward and vote to approve this today. Again, under any other circumstance, I would continue to stand with Commissioner Bear and Commissioner Pileski, but again, just due to the financial piece, gentlemen, I think we should move forward and vote for this. If the motion is passed and approved, or is offered, I will be voting yes on this.
Commissioner Pileski.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Normally, it would seem to me in most purchase agreements, there are contingencies for closing, there are contingencies for, there are situations that arise in the event the buyer chooses to back out of his commitment. And I hope that in our agreements, our obligations are contingent upon this board acting to approve the agreement.
They are, sir.
Okay. Therefore, what that tells me then, sir, is that if a buyer backs out of his commitment now, he's liable to continue to act, it seems to me. I'm not an attorney, but it seems to me he has an obligation to perform. Because we've put the language in the agreements that require them to perform, so long as this board approves what's done. And so if we approve it in 2 weeks, that, it seems to me, keeps the buyer from backing out between now and 2 weeks from now.
That's incorrect, sir.
Okay, tell me why it is that a buyer would not be obligated to specifically perform. We don't act today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The purchase agreements have an agreed-upon close-by date. So even though the buyer, in some cases, has contingencies such as surveys, inspections, environmentals, and the seller has some contingencies, in this specific case, this board, there's still a close-by date in the offer. So the offer says that this buyer is interested in this property with this commission's approval of their contingencies and buyer contingencies to close by this date. This process has been delayed, so those dates, likely in all cases at this point, because this has gone on for so long, that those dates are lapsed. So we reached out to those agents to say, is your client still interested? And we've been told yes, they are still interested. But we don't want to just randomly start picking dates of when these transactions should close until we had this commission approval. So with this commission's approval, then we can tell part of the documents that we've already prepared for Mr. Overton say that the commission's approved, transaction to close by this date.
If I may.
Commissioner Schnell, you're right after Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, rarely do we want to be in a position where we compel purchasing, going to circuit court to enforce a contract. I don't think over a $5,000 piece of property or even a $100,000 property, we want to have that fight in the courts. And with that, if it's appropriate, I'm going to move that we approve
The Administrator Controller would like to speak first, then I'll come back to you, sir. Overton?
I would just remind everybody what the process was. We had allowed the public to submit proposals up until the end of December, and then we were going to, bring it forward through the process. However, we had this scheduled for last month's full board meeting, the Tuesday night meeting. But it takes, from the December 31st, it takes a couple weeks for them to put all the paperwork together for a transaction for a close, is what we're talking about here. And then when it comes to the final deadline of that time, there were some challenges with this, with some properties. So we're like, no, we don't want to bring it half complete. We want to wait and finish up some things. And frankly, these properties have been a challenge. Many of them have been a challenge. In fact, just Friday, I removed a property from the list today because I felt there were some questions that needed to be answered before I was comfortable bringing it to the board for, to sell. Again, these are, some of these properties are a challenge. They have first right of refusals, they have, and even the language on some of those is, challenging, where I've had to seek legal opinion on. So it's not, most of these aren't just a simple, normal transaction like some of them we've had in the past. And some properties, we even questioned, well, one property we found out we didn't actually own it. So good thing we were doing title searches and checking everything because it'd been in our possession for years, but at the same time, unbeknownst to us, we weren't owning it. So I apologize for the timeliness, but again, it's all about trying to be thorough, and I know it's difficult for the buyers, but we're trying to do the best we can with the difficult circumstances. And last month we were going to bring it, but we couldn't, or felt we needed a little more time to clear up some things, and that's why it's on the study session.
Commissioner Bear.
Thank you. I don't recall that the Board of Commissioners was asked to establish the close-by date, so I'm assuming that when we turn this over to the Administrator Controller's office, that between our Administrator Controller and our Realtor firm, they establish the close-by date. With our Administrator involved in this, since I have raised this question so many times, so bringing stuff here on a timely basis, this should have been done. You knew the close-by date. You knew myself, my strong feelings, and other commissioners' feelings that you don't do these things at study session. You said these were completed by the end of December. Well, then they should have been. If you're telling us now we need to hurry up and approve this, I'll tell you somebody else should have hurried up then and gotten these documents finished. Don't go your average speed on your side and then tell me I have to hurry things along. Let's be equitable here. Everybody put some pressure on this. Said the process was delayed. I'd like you to, when I'm done, explain to me what delayed the process. But from what I've heard so far, this could have been brought to us, and in my opinion, should have been brought to us in January. Don't skip January and then tell me I got no option but to do it today. So if you can explain to me what delayed this process?
May I comment?
Please.
So when you reference the closing date for these transactions as a group is not the same date. The closing date is whatever the proposed closing date is whatever the buyer wrote on the purchase agreement. So to say that Mr. Overton would know the response date, that's not an accurate statement because every offer has at least a different closing date. So if you've got 15 offers here, you've got probably at least 13 different close by dates. Those are dates when the purchaser is requesting to close by. Delays, and I mean no offense to the former road commission, but several of the delays on these properties was outside of the administrator's office. It was part of your former road commission where easements were never recorded. Property that was supposed to be transferred at the end of a sewer bond issue with Leone Township was, there was never any recording done to state that was to happen. And then we learned, we've got two offers on this property, and lo and behold, it was supposed to be transferred to Leone Township years ago, but it never was. There was never any documents recorded. We've had multiple conversations about the rights of first refusal of the one property that isn't recommended today and the other that is. These documents drafted by the road commission prior to probably all of us in this room, thank you, we're in the opinion of our legal counsel, so poorly drafted that a first right of refusal doesn't say that it applies to just one person, which means that if it was your first right of refusal it wasn't written so that when you were deceased, it ends. We've got one of these that says that it's you or your heirs. So now we have to serve public notice to every heir, known and unknown, of some gentleman that lived in the early 1900s. We've got another first right of refusal that, another one that says it doesn't state an expiration date. It doesn't state that the person with the first right of refusals has to even match the highest offer. The documents drafted before all of us, so I'm not throwing stones, were drafted poorly, and that's what's taking some of this delay, is digging through documents that were unrecorded by different departments at the county, a vast title search to make sure that when we recommend these properties be sold, that the properties are free and clear of all clouds of title, so that nothing pops up in the future and somebody comes back to our county commission and says, you didn't have a right to sell this property. That's a lot of these delays. And response dates, we responded to offers and we just kept letting the buyers know, we will get you an answer as soon as we can, we'll get you an answer as soon as we can. And that shifted about a month ago, where now the buyers have vastly shifted from understanding because it's government to becoming very frustrated with their own government. So hopefully that helped answer some of your questions, and I'll defer the rest to you, Mr. Overton.
Well, no, I would agree. Some of these things you don't know until you start getting into the weeds of these properties that sometime we didn't even know we had properties, some of these old properties. But I would agree. Record keeping wasn't a priority back in the day, especially for the road commission.
Don't make a motion yet.
Commissioner Schnell, then Commissioner Bear.
Yeah, I'm going to move that we authorize the sale of the attached list of properties and authorize Michael Overton, County Administrator, Controller, to negotiate easements as necessary with purchasers, to make any minor modifications as necessary to conclude individual sales, and to sign all documents necessary to facilitate the sale and transfer of titles.
Question. I'm going to ask that we have a point of order at the moment so I can explain something to Board of Commissioners.
Sure.
I want to let commissioners be aware, because of the lack of attendance of our fellow commissioners at this meeting, that if two of you vote no on this, and I realize this sounds like I'm holding a gun to your head, I'm not. But if two of you vote no on this, it ends here. We revert the properties back, it's all done. You got to have a majority of those elected and seated.
Yeah.
So that means 5 of us have to vote yes. So if 2 of you who have vehemently opposed this still vote no, it will not pass. You hold the keys to this item, the 2 of you. Well, then I do not know. We voted it down. It would, in my mind, we would have defeated Ray's motion, which he just read, and that motion goes through the whole process. It would kill the sales.
Yeah.
In my mind.
That's what I was thinking.
And so I guess what I would ask also, as your chair under this administrative conversation, is that has an item under new business, we as a committee begin discussion of what we expect study session to be. This meeting used to be 2 meetings of the Board of Commissioners. We had an AM meeting and a PM meeting, and it was a full board meeting. Okay, and if that's what we want, then let's go back and do that. Let's get rid of the study session. We'll go to a full board meeting in the first part of the month and a full board meeting the third Tuesday of the month. But let's have that discussion after this issue. Let's help our citizens purchase these properties this morning. And then you can freely lambaste me all you want to. Okay, because I'm your chairman, and I'm the one that's brought this stuff forward. So with that, I will accept Ray's motion, and do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any
Discussion?
discussion to the motion?
Quick comment,
Starting with
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Bear, and I'll go right around the room.
If I understood you, we need 5 of the 9 full board members to
Yes, sir.
pass this. There are 7 here today. So if 2 vote no,
There's 6.
5 vote yes.
7? Okay.
then you would have your majority.
Okay, yeah, that's correct, I do.
So-
Yes, I apologize.
Okay,
I
I'm
miscounted.
just checking to see if my math was right. Thank you.
Yep, I apologize. Okay, so, Tony? The next hand was Darius.
Thank you. Again, Commissioners, we have, I understand the thought in mind of waiting to do this. Again, I would agree with that under normal circumstances, but when we look at the price tag on these items, I would hate to lose these, even if it was just to delay it for 2 weeks. Again, we've been elected to make the best decisions for our communities, and I do believe that when we're handed this opportunity to, one, take care of some governmental business and not delay it, and then have the opportunity to strengthen the county some with this financial measure, I think that we should move forward and do that. One of the biggest complaints I receive as a county commissioner is that we're constantly delaying things, and I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to get something done and move forward and not have to go back to our constituents and say, hey, we delayed this for another 2 weeks, we delayed it for a month, we delayed it for 6 months, whatever the case is. So again, I would just encourage all of our commissioners to vote in favor on this. As Commissioner Shotwell said, we have an opportunity to discuss further action of study sessions later. Let's talk about that when that time comes. Again, we have an opportunity to take care of something without a delay that helps strengthen the county, and then it also serves the constituents of the county as well. Although there may not have been anything in print, but we live in a day and time where all the information you need is at the swipe of a finger on a cell phone. So I think that the information has been out there to some measure, and again, we've been working on this for some time now, and so I would just encourage all of us fellow commissioners to vote in favor on this so that we can move on to other matters. Nothing further, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the time.
Commissioner Snell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things. I think it's important to re-note that these could have come before us last month, and I expected that. So seeing these isn't a surprise. And my next comment is a question to the chair. So my understanding is if this fails to get 5 votes?
Yeah.
Okay. If it fails to get 5 votes, then we start over from scratch. Or
The Board of Commissioners wants to sell property, maybe they don't want to sell property.
well, I thought we were in agreement to do that.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate the questions, but let's stay germane to the motion, please.
okay.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Bear?
I had not heard previously that if this doesn't get approved today, all of these sales offers are null and void. Irritates me to have people point at me. Like if these sales don't go through, somehow it's my fault because I vote no, because I firmly believe this decision needs to be made at a full board meeting. I am not delaying this sale. We are following procedures as we have on other things. And part of the reason that we discuss things at study session, discuss it more at committee meeting, and then make a final decision at board meetings is so that the public is fully informed and the public has a chance to respond. If the public shows up and says, I don't know what's taking you so long, hurry up, then fine, I'll accept that comment from them. But I don't do this for me, I do this for the public. I ask many questions here that I already know the answer to, but I ask the question here so the answer is available to the public. It's on the official record and it's on the YouTube tape that people can go look at. So I find it offensive that somebody's going to blame me if I vote no on this. I'm definitely voting no on this. I have standards. I have commitments. These things get voted on at board meetings. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Walls. Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes.
Commissioner Pileski.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Snell.
Yes.
Commissioner Bear.
No.
Commissioner Shotwell.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
We have, let's see, one more parcel here. This is a parcel we have discussed before. We went back and did some more homework to, one, make sure that we own it, and we do. In fact, surprisingly, cleanly own it. Didn't find any controversy in title or first right of refusals or anything. This is the property of West Ave and Kibbe Road there. It's a big green space. How many acres is that, 4 or 5? Acres there. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's a good-sized parcel. I think everyone has seen it. It's grass that we mow and have been mowing for many, many, many years, but not using. It is, to be frank, it's a nice green open space next to some more apartments. We think it would be potentially a very developable site. It has a great view, if you will, of the Cascades Park proper, and that it should be made available to the public for sale and hopefully development and return to the tax roll. And we're asking permission to list it and sell it.
So moved.
Questions? Commissioner Bear?
This property was listed along with all the others. Was there a offer to purchase made by anybody from the public?
This was not in that group. That's why we're talking about it right now. It was asked by the board to review it and make sure that we actually owned it and that it wasn't caught up in the Sparks Foundation or the master plan to the county park system or had any other attachments or ties to it. And from everything we have, it does not. Now, if you want to refer this to Tuesday night, that would be fine also, and take it through the committee process. We can talk about this 2 more times if that's what you want to do. But Mr. Overton's asking permission to begin the process.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to be clear, it was contemplated originally that we wanted to sell this, but there was all those questions that came up, so we removed it immediately and said, because the board had questions about, should we, or is there some other thing going on with this property? Do we still use it as for pee-wee football or something like that? So there was those questions, so it was immediately removed. But it was contemplated initially, you're correct. And then, so we just did homework, and now it's ready to come back and say, hey, we've done our homework, we believe that it is wise to go ahead and offer it for sale, and we're asking permission to pursue that.
Commissioner Bear?
Are you intending to sell these 3 lots as one sale? And if so, will you make that clear?
Yes, that would be clear.
Because
in the
it's not
listing.
clear here that they must be sold together. This allows the option for 3 different people to buy 3 different pieces.
That would not be our intent to sell it that way. But frankly, highest and best offer, I suppose, but it doesn't make sense for a developer to buy one lot when they're too small individually, other than maybe a single-family home, but the zoning is such there with the apartments that, it wouldn't be practical. But the market somewhat gets to decide on those kind of factors. For instance, someone could buy it all and then turn around and subdivide it and sell it if they wanted to in smaller sections.
I believe we have a motion.
We do.
Support?
We do.
Would you please post the vote? I'm yes. Passed. Passes 6-1.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have the jail discussion. The Sheriff's here. He has a PowerPoint. I believe we're going to bring that up.
Good morning, everyone. This is a far less controversial topic than what you just went through. So, where to begin? So, the jail is falling apart. You guys have, I'm assuming you've seen everything here. Oh, good. Got it up on screen. Didn't know it was going to be. So, I guess I'll go through these with you, and feel free to stop me at any point if you got a question. Do I have control of this, or do you? Can I? Okay, thank you. Here we go. Slideshow. From current slide. There we go. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands, well, I'm sorry if I'm really loud. Just want to make sure everybody understands what a jail is as opposed to a prison, and that's what this slide was supposed to explain for you. So there's 28 state prisons out there. There's 83 county jails. They're all run independently by a county sheriff. It's a duty for the sheriff to run a jail. In other words, I have to do it. It's a constitutional duty imposed upon me, among other things. So in a jail, who actually spends time there is really important to understand. It's all pretrial detainees. So these are people that have not been found guilty of a crime. And that's something that's really critical for everyone to understand, is that the people inside of jail haven't done anything yet in terms of the law. They haven't been convicted of anything. Not like prison. Prison are people who have been convicted. In jail, you can serve a sentence of up to a year. Right now, what we do with people that serve sentences is we take them over to Channer Road. That's our facility for people to serve sentences at. We can hold 256 people at Channer Road, which is 128 per barrack. There's 2 barracks out there, and they can serve sentences there. In addition, we'll hold people out there for probation violations on felony charges that they know they're going to be in and out for a period of 30 days or something like that, and parole as well. So just to kind of give you an idea what Channer Road is, Wesley Street's where we hold maximum security people on pretrial detainees, murder, rape, those kinds of subjects. So just a little bit of history here. The current jail was built in 1951, 52, and it was first occupied in 1953. So we're looking at a building that's, between 70 and 71 years old right now. As you can see in this photograph, this is the old jail at the top, which was in service from 25 to 53. It's important to note that the reason why that jail was shut down is because the state stepped in and said, hey, we've got guidelines you guys got to start following, and you're not following them. Some of the photographs that I didn't include of that old jail were just deplorable conditions for the inmates. Then the current jail from 1953, as you'll notice over here, if I can, over here there's not, the building ends right here. I'll show you the addition here in just a moment that was added on in 78. That's Sheriff Austin there, who's standing out in front of the new jail in 53. That was a sit-pat photograph. So increased our capacity from 15 inmates to 90 inmates. This is the addition that I was telling you about, which is on the west side. It includes a sally port, which is where police cars go in and drop off inmates in a secured area. It includes a west side doorway over here, and then it's got a day room here for the inmates, which is something that was required. That increased capacity from 90 to 117. And then Sheriff Zavislak in 1983 successfully fought the state on a double bunking issue and was able to get it up to 130 inmate capacity. So even going back into the 70s, overcrowding has been an issue in the Jackson County Jail. So what the answer was in 1985, because the double bunking didn't work, was to create an annex for the people to serve their sentences, just like I was telling you about on Channer Road. And that's what we have here. So the annex was created along with the tunnel that goes over the alleyway into the court building here, and then over where the prosecutor's office is the annex where people would serve out their sentences. And increased capacity to 194 beds at that time. Then Channel Road was built, and there was a north side addition added to the Wesley Street facility, which is this big area back in here. It kind of goes like this, if you will. It was an addition onto the Sally Port. So the Sally Port, instead of just one police car being able to pull in, now 3 police cars can pull in as a result of this addition. And then a fire escape was placed back here because the old one was dilapidated. So a new fire escape in the event of emergency was put in as well. And then there was a couple of cells that were constructed over on that north end too that allowed for people to be segregated, depending upon mental health conditions, a number of different things. And then this is the Channel Road facility, and you can see how large it is there. These are the 2 barracks here, and this is actually the rear of the facility, so you're not seeing the full context of it. But in addition to that, there's 2 other buildings. There's a building that's a separate chow hall and a religious services building, and then there's a building that's administrative, so people can actually come in and visit folks. And there's if you will, a booking area, we call it an administrative area, where the inmates come in and services are given to the inmates as well. And there's a medical treatment facility inside there too, along with a classroom and a community mental health room as well. So there's a lot of stuff out on Channel Road. Now we're going to get into some of the conditions here on Wesley Street. These are the old locking mechanisms from the early 50s. These mechanisms right here are breaking apart. This was one that actually broke apart here shortly after COVID came off. We had a subject that was going to trial for murder, in fact, and we couldn't get him out of the cell because this had broken. So we had to have facilities torch open the door, and then we had to call somebody in to fix it. Well, not your regular locksmith can fix this. So it turns out we can only find 4 in the country that still operate these kinds of locks and know how to work on them. So we had to fly a guy in from Wisconsin to take it apart, fabricate new parts for it, and put it back together so we could actually use the door. We had to get all new door in order to use that, so it was more cost effective to do it this way. Now the reasons why this was occurring is because of this sag that you'll see here on the far right of the screen. The sags that we have in our hinges, well, you know, they're 70 years old and those doors are very, very heavy. So they're starting to sag a little bit. We did have a couple of new hinges fabricated as well, specifically on this door. But it was extremely expensive for just one lock. And incidentally, he indicated that all of our locks are going to be needing to be replaced in the next few years. So we got his number handy, just in case. So some of the security concerns that we have, and I won't go too in-depth on this because I think some of it we need to be careful about. But here, as you'll see the gate, when the gate is shut in the back lot, so if there's ever a catastrophic event that occurs inside of the jail and we have to evacuate, they go to the back lot. We close the gates and they be gated in. As you can see, this design was bad, to say the least. There's about a 2-foot gap here between the asphalt and the bottom of the gate. So clearly anybody can slip right through that. In addition, a couple of you commissioners that came out, I pointed out too, that the design was such that there's some electrical boxes that are placed inside of the pen as well. They'll very easily jump on top of them and go right over the fence. And if you think that's not possible, if you've got an 18-year-old kid in there for murder, he's highly motivated to get out. So, and just as a contrast, look at the Channel Road facility again, with a Constantine wire that's down on the bottom, Constantine wire that's between, there's 2 fences there, and then Constantine wire that's up on the top. And that wire, if you've never monkeyed around with it, you can't even touch it with a bare hand. It'll immediately cut you. So that's the difference between the securities of the 2 facilities. And obviously, the Channel Road facility is minimum security. So we have an electronic box in our booking area that allows us to push button and allow people in and out of the facility. So in different places, depending upon where people are coming in and out, they're all on a view screen. We can push these buttons to let them in and out. The box is broken, to say the least. Many parts of it are broken. Some of it is still serviceable. The white buttons on top, the ones that are out, are no longer working at all. So as you can see, there's quite a few of them. And they don't make these anymore, so we'd have to reinvent the entire system, which would be very difficult, time-consuming, and expensive. Technology and the structure. So as you can see, analog versus digital, huge difference between the two photographs of what you can actually tell. The digital, we can zoom right in and go right up to somebody's face, even from the bird's eye view that you're seeing from this. We can zoom right in, go right in and tell what's going on in those particular cells. Now, because we don't have them, we have to have all of them digital. We have to have this multiplexer. The multiplexer has broken down at least twice since I've been there. We finally got a new one, and we had to buy a used one on eBay because they don't make them anymore. The cameras are extremely expensive inside of a correctional institution, and the reason for that is because you got to make them in such a way that, we got a camera right here, that you can't wrap a bed sheet around and then hang yourself from. So they got to be recessed in such a way that they can't be accessible, and they have to be shock resistant, and there's all sorts of different things that are required that, frankly, I don't know the whole list, but it's big. So nevertheless, it costs about $5,000 per camera. And then it's particularly difficult in our facility because of the design of the facility, which was built during that nuclear fallout era of the 50s. We have 24-inch thick outer walls, 16-inch thick inner walls that are solid concrete. We used to say those walls make it really difficult to transmit to. So when we're doing Zoom proceedings in court, which is now the standard since COVID has hit, and I think it's here to stay. In fact, I know it's here to stay because the State Court Administrator's Office has said, this is the way you're going to do it from now on. So we're going to be doing this more and more. So all of our wires are run outside. As you can see here in this particular photograph. Now, another concern that we have is the structure itself on the, now I had Commissioner Bear in, and he's an engineer, he could probably explain it a lot better than I could. On the west side addition, it's actually pulling away from the building at an alarming rate. It's about 5 inches at the top here, it's about an inch down at the bottom. So it's almost like it's fallen off the building. So I don't know exactly what's happening there. Obviously, I think there's some larger structural concerns that we need to be aware of. But here in this photograph, you can see the big hole that we have. On the other side of this is a cell. And we've got some makeshift things to try and patch that in so it's not an issue, but you still can see in to the cell to a certain degree. And not just on this floor, which is the top floor, our third floor. You can also see into a cell on the second floor as well. So it's a concern of mine. As far as to what's going to happen next, I don't know. But Commissioner Bear made an astute observation while we were there. It almost seems as though they're twisting away from one another. And I'm not sure exactly how that can happen with buildings, but it's happening. And I'm not sure which one it is, if it's the addition or if it's the building itself. So, moving along, our plumbing problems. Probably one of the grossest things you can imagine inside this facility. Here, the photograph to the left is some sewer inside of our booking area, inside of our captain's office. The captain's office is back here. What happened was Captain Vogt at the time, shortly after I took office, was working on his computer and the sewer line broke above his head and fell all over him, all over his computer, fried his computer, and just went all over his office. You know, and unfortunately, that was like the fourth time that had happened. Yeah. So he ended up getting a different office somewhere else. We put him in another location. We ended up getting this all cleaned up. We got that sewer line replaced, and we still are getting leaks in that same area. If you look in that area, there's a drop ceiling. We're still getting leaks. There's no explanation for it. I don't know why it's still leaking, but it is. We had it all replaced, and we're still having that issue. It's just old. So what we have done in a lot of these areas is we have put these big pans up. So if you can imagine, we've got a suspended ceiling here. Above the suspended ceiling is a great big pan that flows down towards the middle. And in that middle, there's a hole drilled into it, and there's a little piece of rubber grommet inserted into it and a tube that runs off from it. So it catches all that sewer or water that's dripping above the ceiling, and it goes into that line, which is this middle picture here, and then that flows into, in some conditions, a bucket. This happens to be the nurse's station on the second floor. It rolls into that bucket, and then the nurse, when it gets full enough, then she goes and empties it. Some of our other cases, like where we have in, yes?
Would you prefer questions at the end, or can we ask as we go along?
Sure, right now, I'd be fine.
Have you seen any issues with mold as it relates to this?
Yes,
Needless to say.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Yes, there has been some, yes, quite a bit.
And then one other question, I'm sorry. Some slides ago, you mentioned about the lock cost. Do you by chance know how much that was? I know you said it was pretty extravagant, but.
I want to tell you it was $6,000, but I might be
For
wrong.
one lock?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Well, we had to fly the guy in and fabricate things and, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I'm going to ask a question since we're taking them right now. And Rick, this is not directed at anybody or current facility staff or anything, okay? This is just an observation and a question. Where were we with some of these problems 20 years ago? Did we just look the other way, or what? I will. Would you mind stepping up to the microphone, Rick? And I know you weren't actually here, but you came right afterwards, I know. Were these ongoing problems, or is this just a normal accumulation of 20 years worth of a building?
We have a multitude of issues, as the sheriff has pointed out. We have, back when the first millage was done, the decision was made to leave the existing mechanical equipment in the jail, because at that point in time, it was only 20-some years old. You could still get parts for it. The cast iron plumbing throughout the building, because a lot of the plumbing is encased in concrete, just like it is here at the Tower Building, the decision was made to leave it in place. Again, it was just trying to keep costs down. And here we are now, where we're faced with these issues. Some of them started going south way before I got here. When I was at the city police department, a lot of these issues were already present, and I've been gone from there, 23 years. So, again, it's just one of those issues where the building is worn out. I think the best part of the building is the original building. It was actually constructed as a jail. And the additions, well, as the sheriff pointed out, we have that wall twisting. It tells me that something's going on possibly underneath. But again, I divert, but it's just the issues that we're faced with. And what has been problematic for us to really dig in and get a lot of these cast iron pipes replaced is, what do you do with the inmates? That has been really tough. We have to make sure that they're out of the way, and yet we're going through 3 floors of thick concrete to replace a lot of this plumbing. And as the sheriff will show in some of his slides, that plumbing is really bad. So,
I'd like to point out something too, while Rick's up here. These guys do an absolutely fantastic job keeping that place running.
That's what I wanted to say.
They really have.
We worked our tails off with all kinds of elaborate solutions over the last 20 years to fix or deal with the building over there. And I understand that. That's why I prefaced my statement with, not
No.
responsible for where we were or where we are. But my question is this just obsolescence of a 70-year-old building wearing out, or is it, that we're just having, this is just normal maintenance that we're having to do?
no, it's the system wearing out,
Okay.
in my opinion.
One of the things that I was told too, Mr. Chairman, is that, and this was by an architect that came in, he said that in a jail, its actual age, you should multiply by 3. So here, he says you've got a 210-year-old facility. He says that's how you should be treating it. It's very, very old. So,
And if I may just chime in briefly on that, what people don't realize, the public in general will say, is that this isn't your house or your office building. This is a place where the people in there are actively pursuing ways to disrupt the process. I cannot tell you how many times they've shoved stuff down the toilet and flooded. Can you imagine your bathroom flooding and flooding the whole house? It can create long-term problems with electrical and all the other challenges. So that happens way too often, and I just want to point that out.
correct?
Actually injure someone. That's some of the things that can be done.
Oh, excuse me.
Sheriff, thank you for the tour. It was very informative. I would like to commend our facilities department. They have been very creative in engineering solutions to deal with this stuff, but unfortunately, everything that they're engineering is a temporary stopgap correction, or not a correction. It's just a method of dealing with it. It's not a full correction. So they have done an incredible job, and it was amazing to see some of the stuff that they have improvised. Not the way mechanical systems should work, but when the system is worn out that badly, their creativity has kept it working.
That's what we do.
But that creativity to keep it working is that's going to run out. But thank you to your people.
Mr. Chair,
They're very good.
thank you. I appreciate the tour that we went on. We've had several discussions on this, and I really, and I have, I think, in the past, encouraged other board members to take that tour. These pictures don't even begin to tell the story, and I really encourage you to take a personal tour with the sheriff. It's a real eye-opener.
Yeah, the one thing you don't get from the pictures is the smell. So
Yes.
you're really missing out on something.
It's unique.
And just to kind of go through these quickly, unless there's any other questions. This is a pipe that was damaged, it's clogged. To what Mr. Overton was explaining, a lot of the inmates will try to shove their shirts and stuff down the toilets and flush them in, and different things like that cause these big clogs. So anyway, when this clogged was snaked, it ended up breaking the pipe all apart. You can see this little chase right here. And this picture actually isn't very good, doesn't do it justice on how small that is, to try to get back in there to get in and fix the pipes. These are some of the exposed pipes that are down on the bottom level, and you can see where it's been leaking in here. And we tried to isolate that leak multiple times since I've been there and just can't do it. When you walk through that hallway, which is where all the patrol deputies walk go out to the car after they get done with briefing, it's literally raining on top of you. This is in the boiler room. This is the asbestos, and there's some breaks that are in here that have been wrapped with different materials to try and keep that pipe together. This is our heating and cooling for the facility. Now, there's no thermostatic control in the building at all. We do have some thermostats in there, but they're more like decorations than anything else. That was not a jab, I apologize.
No. And I can certainly expound on that too, the fact that back in 2002, when the last edition was
That's
going
correct.
on, they were attempting to install a building control system. It was proprietary. It failed within 2 years of, this is how it was related to me, it failed within 2 years of going online, and since then, everything's been controlled by creative measures.
So this is really
I
creative.
have a box full.
This is a cold air plenum. There's a hole drilled in it. That's a meat thermometer, and that's used to monitor the air. And you can see here, winter heat, 55 to 60 degrees, summer cool, 70 to 85 degrees. That's what they look at that cold air return to make a determination as to how they're going to adjust the water that's going through the system. And this is how the water is adjusted. The handle's been broken off of this valve, so you have to have vice grips on top of it. It's clamped together, and then there's these pipes. As you can see down here, colder over here, smaller pipes, and then hot over here to the hottest if the building calls for it. So that's how the heat is controlled throughout the building, which is kind of difficult, I mean, because it's like the front of the building will be really, really hot, and the back of the building will be very cold. And then we try to adjust that by different ways, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and it's very, very temperamental. Sometimes just a little bit of a tap here or there will throw the temperature off tremendously.
Is this boiler heat?
Yes. And a chiller,
Except for the back edition, that's forced air.
right.
So, yeah, we have different systems.
And this is the hot water heater. We have to use this little box fan to keep it cool so it doesn't overheat. This is some of the design concerns. Again, that 1950s era. This is state of the art, but today it's way out of whack. As you can see back in here where these arrows are on these two sides, those are cells that are tucked away back in there, and they've been the site of several rapes, multiple suicides, multiple suicide attempts, all sorts of different things there. These are all things that we've been sued for, and we currently have litigation on a couple of them as well right now. This is the Sally Port I was telling you about earlier. It's a one-way in, one-way out. It's more like a garage. Now, Sally Ports are not designed that way. Sally Ports are usually really big, so you can fit an ambulance into them. They close on both ends, and you drive in one way and you drive out the other. That's the way they're supposed to be. So now, when you pull in your police car, here's the booking door over here on the right slide. Pull your police car all the way up, secure your weapon, and you take your inmate in. Then if another guy comes in, you have to wait until he gets his guy booked. And if a third guy comes in, you got to wait until two people get their guy booked before you can actually leave. So you're in there for half an hour sometimes, waiting for the other guys to get their inmates booked, and that's just dead time for you. So this guy's not out on the street. So it's really a bad design. This is one of the cells on the north end, which was the addition in 2002. And as you can see, there's a camera over here. The camera's not pointed this way. We can't get a camera inside of there because of a couple of other restrictions. We can put a camera over here, but we still can't see inside of the building, or inside of the glass very well with it. We actually have a camera this way. You can't see it on here. We can't see inside of it very well. These are the cells that house suicidal inmates, people with mental health conditions and different things. And they're just completely inadequate. They have a shared shower over here. There's all sorts of fights about that. There's all sorts of difficulty, and the other inmates can't even see them. So if they do get into trouble, usually the other inmates will scream and holler, hey, this guy needs help, or whatever the case may be. They can't even see them because of the way this was designed. So then you've got over onto the right, the facilities for, or excuse me, the inmate laundry, which is outside of the secured facility, which is totally unheard of in a jail. You never take somebody outside the jail to do the laundry and then take them back inside the jail. That's what we have to do right now with our trustees. And there's locking mechanisms on there. There's some other real security issues along with this that I won't get into in public, but this is a real problem. Then, of course, when they built that facility, excuse me, that addition onto the facility on the north end, they used drywall. You can't use drywall in a correctional institution, because what happens? They pick at it, and just like you said about the paint, this is what they did. They get little screws out, and then they wrap them with gauze or different things, and they stab each other with them. So this slide is just depicting why the design is so flawed. If you think back to the 1950s, what telephones were like, and then what the smartphone is like today, we've come a long way. And the pod system that they have today for these jails is just incredible. I've toured several jails now just to get an idea as to what we might be looking at. For instance, all of the plumbing is outside of the facilities. So if there's ever a problem, you can access it without even disrupting the inmates. They stay inside of their cells. The cells are all steel. All the fixtures inside are welded to the walls or welded to the floor. There's nothing that can be disrupted. And if anything is broken, it can be fixed from the outside without disrupting the inmate. Another thing they do is, like I say, they flush the shirts down and different things like that. The outside plumbing in these facilities is fascinating because it takes it down to a crock, and the crock separates it, and actually it's got these fingers that come up and take the shirts and dumps them right out. So they never go into the plumbing any further than where it goes to the crock. And before it gets to the crock, they can actually access that plumbing and pull it right out if it gets hung up prior to getting to the crock. So they've really thought of a lot of things here to try and make sure that things go a little bit more smoothly inside of the institutions. So I've kind of talked to you about this already, about the modern jail design. We have that linear style jail. So the modern one, everything is out in front of you like this. It's kind of spread like a pie. Everything is shaped in little triangles. The cells are all stacked on top of one another and welded together. There's a person that sits right in the middle of it all that has windows to every cell, can see every cell from his chair, and he also has cameras on every cell where he can zoom into one of them and look at them. In addition to that, you have a person that's out there walking the floor that has interaction with the inmates all the time. Right now, we sit into a corner and only have interaction with them on a round that we do. So that person who's out on the floor actually has interaction with them. It's proven to reduce assaults, rapes, mental health issues, all sorts of things. It is reduced as a result of just having that corrections person out there and interacting with the inmates. So, you folks probably know this, but I think it bears repeating. Our millage is expiring that built the Channer Road facility. So that millage is a half a mil, which is $50 a year onto the property taxes of a person who has an SEV of $200,000 on their home. So what we're looking at is about 1 mil, so a half a mil increase on the half a mil that's already going to expire. So it would be an additional $50 onto that $50 that people are already paying. Yes, sir. SEV is half the true value?
No.
I supposed to be true value, I thought.
If I may, SEV is consistent, should be consistent with market value. It's taxable value that's half. So you're correct in your thinking.
Because what I'm thinking about is taxable value being $100,000. So for every $100,000 of taxable value on the home, with a half a mil, it's $50. With a full mil that I'm asking for, it would be $100 for every $100,000 of taxable value on a home. I hope I made that clear. Okay.
We'll have Cecilia clarify it for everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman. So what I've done is, I already explained, I went to several other different jails. Most recently, I went to Ingham County. They're in the middle of building their facility over there. And I've talked to two different architectural firms that specialize in jails. And I talked with Granger Construction Company that specializes in building these facilities. Just so you know, it didn't cost me a dime. They came in and talked to me, toured the facility with me, and gave me some numbers to work with to bring to you folks today. So the architects both agreed that it would cost about $40 million for what I am envisioning. And this is what I'm envisioning. Building an addition out on the Channel Road facility and actually connecting the administrative offices and the chow hall together, leaving the barracks as is, and then flipping around the yard for the barracks to the reverse side. Right now, the yard is facing actually Channel Road, so it would actually be facing the woods. So they could still keep the barracks in place and still use that for the purpose it was intended for when it was originally built, and that's for people to serve out their sentences. We could do that, build a facility out there. We need about 220 beds. That's my estimation, and a lot more beds that we can seclude one inmate into, which is something that we're really having difficulty with on Channel Road because we just don't have that. We have one on each floor. That's it, with the exception of the mental health cells, and there's only 3 of them. So I want more of those types of beds to seclude people from. I want the facility to be based on that pie design and operated in the same manner that I was explaining a little bit earlier so that we can have access to the pipes and access to everything else. We can use the existing facilities that we have out there. They're in fantastic shape. When you give these guys really good stuff to work with, they do an excellent job. But they're in excellent shape. We have a kitchen out there that already services both facilities. So everything is made on Channel Road and then shipped over to Wesley Street for people to eat. So we would have that already in place. We already have our medical facility that's in place, that's there. We already have community mental health. We already have our laundry system. However, we would have to expand on our laundry, probably double the size of it in order for it to work properly for all the inmates. So a standalone jail over in Branch County, which was 220, and they did everything to it, was $28 million. Costs have gone up since they built their jail, unfortunately, and so they've estimated for me to build the addition and connect the 2 facilities, it would cost between $26 and $28 million. Now going back to a patrol services building and an administrative building, we're talking about leveling the current facility on Wesley Street. It's just not a serviceable building anymore. It's outlived its usefulness. Everybody has agreed with that that's toured it. And my proposal is that we would build a new patrol services and administrative building there. I've been in some preliminary talks with the city about maybe moving in with us and sharing some services and doing some different things. They're very interested in that. I think that would be very beneficial for both of us to do. I think getting us together, I mean, what could we share? I mean, right now, records, administrative, evidence we do share right now, but it's over at the city, so it would decrease a little bit of our having to go over there. It would assist us a lot of ways. But there's some other things I think would just come organically by being in the building together, that we would just do together. Detective Bureau, for instance, investigations would hugely benefit from that kind of thing. So to level that building, what I've been told is it's going to take a minute because there's tons of asbestos in there that has to be abated. And to get at some of that asbestos and those pipes and everything that have to be taken out before it's crushed, it's going to take some time as well because you're going to have to actually get through the concrete to do it. So they're estimating that it would be between $4 and $5 million to actually level the building. Then building a new building on top of it, somewhere between $6 and $7 million to put a new building on top of it. And what we're talking about is a much smaller building in scale than what we have right now. We would probably request a sally port and a couple of holding cells just for the court piece of this, because people do have to go to court for their trials and things of that nature. So we'd have a sally port, people would drive in, and holding cells for, breaks at court and lunch and those kinds of things, but nothing with facilities like showers or anything like that. And then just the administrative offices of the city and of the county. The county at least, and hopefully the city as well, if they enter full agreement as time goes along. So the total cost estimate for that was $40 million. And I would just like to point out, it's my little math trick here, that would be $100 a year for the taxable value of $100,000, or SEV of $200,000, which equates to 27 cents a day. Now, wouldn't you like to buy a brand-new jail for 27 cents a day? I'm not much of a salesman, folks, but that's the best I got.
He was a good detective, though.
Just a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
For you. You mentioned that if I took down the note correctly, that this new facility would have approximately 210 beds?
Approximately 220.
Oh, 220.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you come up with the rationale for needing that many?
Yep, so there's a couple of different things that we've done. One, we looked at the overcrowding situation that we have right now. And let me explain to you a little bit about what's going on right now, if you don't mind. So with COVID, we are hampered in having the facility completely full. All right, so we can have 185 inside the facility.
Currently?
Yes, but we've got about 162 in today.
Where? At Chandler or here?
Here on Wesley Street.
Okay.
And we are way over capacity with 162. And that requires a little bit of an explanation. So what happens is when we get a new inmate from an arrest or from the courts, that person has to be quarantined for 5 days. And they have to be in a particular cell for 5 days by themselves, unless they come in with somebody else. So they have to stay in the cell by themselves for 5 days. During that 5 days, they're tested for COVID. If at any point that they are determined to be COVID positive, then we move them to a COVID positive cell. All right? When they're in that COVID positive cell, they have to be quarantined for 10 days, unless they continue to have symptoms. If they continue to have symptoms, then we have to test them again, and then after another 10 days, they can actually come out if they're symptom-free. Okay? If their cohorts are if they're symptomatic and they have cohorts, so if you arrest two people, one of them's got COVID, the other one doesn't, for instance, that person that doesn't test positive has to go into a cohort cell. We can't mix cohorts because we don't know what their level of exposure is. So they have different cells that they have to put them in, and they have to be in that for a 10-day waiting period, and they have to be tested every day to determine whether or not they have COVID. And of course, if they have COVID, the timeline starts all over again, and we go back to the beginning with that person. So we're constantly doing that. So anytime somebody goes over to the courts and they come back, we have to quarantine them for 5 days. So at 162 right now, we are absolutely at maximum because we have these big cells that I just showed you Those are 12-man cells. We'll have 8 people in there because somebody tested positive. We have to move them to a positive cell, and then everybody else is a cohort for 10 days, and then we have to wait. And, so that's how the process works. So the way we come up with the numbers is part and parcel to that equation, because there's a lot of seclusion that's required and going to continue to be required in the future for COVID. And in addition to that, we talked with the courts and how many inmates actually come through. We looked at the bookings that we have, and we also make a determination of what kind of crimes are being committed that are going to require incarceration, and people can't be let out on bond. So taking that into consideration, along with the fact that we have a population in our county of 160,000, and we try to look at other counties that mirror our size and determining how many beds that they have for their jail, we're looking at 220 after all of that is considered. One of the things that's really important to understand too is what judges like to do when somebody is convicted of a misdemeanor crime is they like to sentence that person to a day or two in jail or a weekend in jail. That really has a huge impact on folks not to do what they did again. And it's got a huge deterrence effect, and it's proven in several different studies. We can't do that here because we just don't have the room. If we had additional room, we could do those kinds of things, and I think we would be safer as a result of it. And it cuts back on recidivism, and it cuts back on people going into the jail and being angry and upset, because a lot of times when they go into the jail now, they can't just go in on the weekend. They have to go in during the week. They lose their job. There's all sorts of things that happen. So there's many beneficial effects to having a jail that's larger than what we have right now. And frankly, we talked about it, and I think I could make a case for 250 beds, but realistically, I think 220 beds is where we need to be. I think that in the next 20 or 30 years, there may be an addition that's needed onto it, maybe not. But I think 220 for at least the 20 years into the future is going to serve us just fine.
Sheriff, I have a quick question. I'm unclear now.
Okay.
How many total beds do we have between the two facilities now?
441 between the two facilities.
So you're not talking about having 220, you're talking about having additional. I mean, what's the difference there?
So the difference would be 35.
Okay.
35 more beds than what we have right now.
Okay. So total would be?
On top of it would be 476.
So you're looking for 476. How many of those would be downtown?
0.
Exactly. So downtown, you're looking to put in your administrative offices and all that,
Yep.
but you're also putting in some holding cells for the court, right?
Right.
Okay. How many would those be?
Probably 3.
So I want everyone to be clear that, we're not talking 220 beds. We're talking 476 total beds.
That's correct.
Okay.
Out at Channer with a few holding cells here for when they bring people in to go into court. They got to hold them somewhere
Right.
while they wait their turn. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarifying point.
But with that being said, with these holding cells, potential holding cells that we will have, you said downtown, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the event that someone comes in over the weekend before they could see a judge, they'd be placed downtown?
No.
Or would you take them straight to?
Correct. They would go to Channer Road. That would only be for a holding for like a lunch or something along those lines. Sometimes the courts will arrest people and sentence them to jail. They would go in the tunnel, and then they would go into a holding cell until they were able to be transported out to Channer Road. So it would just be for a very short amount of time.
Okay. Okay. And then thank you for the clarification of the breakdown in numbers. That's very helpful. My final question is similar to the same. You mentioned that in the event that this proposal is not passed by the community, that it would cost roughly $1 million a year to keep the current facility going. Understanding all of the repairs and just in the condition that the building is in, how did you come up with that number?
if I may chime in on that there. The $1 million that he's referring to is not repairing anything. Right currently,
I mean, just to keep it going, correct?
right now, we use $1 million of our jail millage, million plus actually, for operations. It's been that way since the onset of that millage. It was a build and operate millage. That millage has expired in December, so the last tax bill went out in December is what that means. So we'll get paid one more time from those taxes here this year in '22, but come '23, there will not be any millage if we don't pass a millage, if the voters choose not to, and that means we would have to find $1 million+ for operating the jail, because the jail will go on to operate as it is, but the general fund will need to make up that difference, is what I'm telling you. And then on top of that, as you can see, the condition will continue to do what we can to keep the jail operating, but those costs will continually go up as time goes on. I mean, Band-Aids get more expensive.
Earl had a question.
I guess questions and just observations as we move through the process, Mr. Chair. I think to expand upon the discussion we just had, that we're using $1 million of our current half mil to fund operations. Those costs continue. Those aren't part of the capital costs.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm concerned is if we say a mill is going to cover what we need to do here, I'm not sure that it will without a more comprehensive financial study, because it doesn't take into account the operational costs that we're already covering with part of our millage. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can explain.
Well,
So-
and I don't need you to explain. I just want to say
Oh,
that
okay.
this is something we need to look at as we study the process. I think also part of the process needs to be what operational differences will you have in your department, because it seems to me we're going to be doing a lot more transporting back and forth people from Chandler Road downtown. What costs may attend that? I guess I want to make sure all of our eyes are opened and all those plans arrived at before we say a mill is the magical number, okay? So I'm hoping with Cecilia and however we study this process, we bear that sort of thing in mind. And maybe operationally we say, oh, we're not going to be transporting too many people downtown because we're going to do things by Zoom, or maybe there's other operational changes. I get that.
Sure.
But I guess I'd rather know what the plan is, arrive at the right millage request, because it's going to be not easy to do that, so that we don't end up a couple years from now saying, oh my gosh, we did the new jail, but we didn't think about this, or we didn't think about that. So a comprehensive operational and capital study, it seems to me, is necessary before all of us can be comfortable enough to vote to put something like this on the ballot. And looking forward to working with you. I agree completely. I haven't been down there, Gary, but I believe, brother. And so yeah, I'm good with doing it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Corey?
Thanks for the presentation. Obviously, there's conditions that have to be addressed. My key two issues are this, is looking out for the everyday taxpayer and really working class families that are struggling. And every time we hear this millage, oh, it's only 27 cents a day, or it's only 47 cents a day, it all adds up when people look at their property tax bill and they see mill. And that can't be more apparent than places like Ann Arbor. Jackson's always supposed to have been an affordable place. I'm not saying this doesn't need to be done, but to, number one, double the current operating millage is slightly problematic to me. I think sometimes there's a number in the middle, maybe. And number two, I'm not comfortable putting any millage on a primary ballot. Any millage that I'm going to, if I feel the necessary need for the community, I think it should be at the election that has the largest voter turnout, which is November. Those are my comments, and thanks for the presentation.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Kennedy on his comments. So in the event that this passes and moves on to the voters, you have a pretty hard sell. And so I'm curious as to what you plan to do to help gain the support of the community, because you have a lot of different theories that people have when it relates to jails and building new jails and things like that. So I'm just curious to how, if you have any plans or ideas on how to present this to the community to show its urgency.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of plans. So first of all, I'm going to take people through in groups through the jail. And that's going to be difficult with COVID, but we're going to manage it. I plan on doing, so first of all, what I do is, and what I've done since I've taken office, is I go to every township, every village meeting. I tried to hit every one of them last year. I'm not sure that I did, but I came really close if I didn't. So I'm going to go to all of those meetings. I'm going to present it to everyone there. I'm going to present it to all of the firefighters at their meetings. I go to the fire chiefs meetings. I go to the meetings, township supervisor meetings. I'll give everything that I got to everybody. What I tell a lot of folks is that, I'm not real talented and I'm not real smart, but I'll outwork you. And that's how I do things. I will work this thing to death. And I will show up anywhere, anytime, to anybody and make this case. Because this case has to be made. I mean, it is medieval in that jail. It is medieval. And it needs to be addressed. And here's the other thing. We can't offer the services in that facility because of the structural limitations. We cannot do it. And we have to be able to do better. And we'll do better for this community by doing that. If we had an open facility right now where I could offer rehab, more rehab facilities for people, if I was able to offer additional education, if I was able to offer the IGNITE program and job trainings, that's the kind of stuff that's going on across the country that's actually having an impact on crime in those areas. We can't do that because of the limitations of our current jail. And that's what people need to understand. They need to understand that we have to be able to offer these programs, and to do that, we have to have a facility that allows those programs to be offered.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing also that we haven't talked about is the cost of doing nothing. There'll be, there is a cost for just letting it ride as it's going. Have you looked at what happens if we fail to put a millage on the ballot or the people say no?
Yes, sir. In fact, today, just didn't coincide well with this meeting. Today, I'm meeting with Tom Cremani. He's our representative from MMRMA. He's been telling us for a while that we need to do something with our facility because they're the ones that are paying out. So what happens when a lawsuit is filed against us? We pay the first $100,000, then they pay the rest. If we don't have those kinds of things occurring, then we get a portion of our premium back, which is several tens of thousands of dollars. We've never gotten that back. That's the kind of thing that we need to start thinking about as well. These lawsuits that are getting paid out, the fact that we're paying into it, our premiums go up, we're not getting money back as a result of the dilapidated conditions that are there. And then in addition to that, to your point, if we decide that we're going to fix the jail that we're in right now, because we have to abate the asbestos, we have to remove all of those inmates. One of the things that I'm concerned about is I'm going to have to evacuate that jail for some disaster at some point. We've already had drills. So we can conduct an evacuation out into the back lot. We learned a lot from them. Of course, I showed you the problems that we have with the back lot and the security issues there. Just want you to understand something. I have 11 people inside there for capital murder right now. And I had like 40 people in there for CSC, criminal sexual conduct. These are bad folks, okay? And there's a reason why they're locked up in there. And we have to be very careful with them. But if I've got a disaster inside that building and I have to evacuate them, it's all hands on deck and they're running out the back door into that lot that's just got the 3 strands of wire going over the top. Now, we've got plans in place that I'm not going to discuss in public to handle that situation, but that's a concern that we got to have. This is a big deal. And if I'm going to have to take those people out of that facility and put them into another facility, I have my jail administrator call every jail from about Midland down to the state line to find out how many inmates they would take of ours. Now, averaging at about 150 inmates, which we never have that low, but let's just say it's 150 inmates in that jail that we have to find accommodations for. The cheapest was $35 a day, and that was my friend right next door in Calhoun County, and he'd take 7, and that was the most I could get any one jail to take. So I would be taking 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there, 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there, until 150, actually plus inmates, are gone. At $35 a day, which is the rock bottom number, that's $1.9 million a year. And the reality of it is, Rick would know better on this and could speak to it better than I could, it's going to take a couple of years to get that facility. If we're going to be breaking things down and shipping inmates out, you're going to have to do it all. And it'd take a couple of years to get that done. So you're looking at $1.9 million a year, and that's actually rock bottom price to do it. And that's just 150 inmates. So you're looking at $2 million, roughly 2 years, let's say, and that's best case scenario, that's $4 million. And we're not even talking about the money that we're losing on commissary. We're not talking about the money that we're losing on administrative jail costs that come in. We're not talking about the money that we're going to be losing in gas, because those jails aren't going to ship them back and forth to court. Those jails aren't going to transport them to penitentiary if that's where they end up going. We're going to have to drive all the way to wherever these counties are, pick them up and take them there. So there's a tremendous cost in not doing this. We have to do something.
Now, I would just add that I was in my discussions with Cecilia just last week. Once I heard the number was roughly 40 million, we did talk to bond counsel to see what kind of bond, what kind of millage it would take to do this. The debt service alone would be roughly the $500,000. $500,000 would be debt service. The remaining dollars would go to operational costs. But I do agree, this is just the first opening salvo. This is just getting it on the table, getting everybody out in the open to talk about. I know the sheriff is going to be working on his plan, because obviously I think we need to spend, this month and frankly, potentially the greater part of next month, making sure that we have those kind of conversations and that the plan is rock solid. I'm frankly a little concerned about the 40 million. That is not enough, because when you said, what was it, $6-7 million to build that building, I'm thinking, wait a minute, we're just paying $3 million for an addition to the animal shelter, and that's nowhere near building a building like you're describing, so I'm a little concerned about those numbers. Sure. But at the same time, it is necessary. There's no doubt in my mind that it's necessary. And it's inevitable. Sooner or later, things wear out and you have to replace them. It is what it is. So if there's not any additional questions at this time, sir.
Gary, we talked a little bit about this last night, but are we looking at a design build, or are we looking at RFPs?
So we hadn't really even gotten that far.
You're ahead of the curve. Congratulations.
I try to be.
So
Yeah,
to put Tony Bear's mind at ease and all other commissioners, Vice Chairman Kennedy, we've missed the May deadline. You're pretty much 4 p.m. February 8th. It won't get through committee in time, so we won't be using the May date. If you were to put it on the August primary, which I am hearing already, there's severe consternation to that, May 10th at 4 p.m. was your date deadline. To have it appear on the November ballot, August 16 at 4 p.m. is when we have to take action. So, study session in August would be when we'd get to vote. I'm just trying. One thing that I really want to have analysis on, and you can share with us, which I think all the commissioners would be excited to hear. By going to an open jail system, are we able to reduce corrections staff? And is there a number where we can save long-term legacy costs and everything that goes along with that, with the possibility of the minimum staffing requirements being lower? Number one. Number two, I think that's got to be considered that no one's said here, and I'm going to. You're going to take corrections officers off of Wesley. What's the income tax penalty to the city then for allowing a new corrections facility to appear on Channer Road? I think we should know that number as part of our negotiations with the city, and commissioners should understand what's going on there also. I look forward to further discussions on this, most definitely. I would prefer a local contractor, a Jackson County address. Would really be nice. I heard you mention Granger, but I know we did it before with a local. And I just hope we're able to get the bid out there and let them sharpen their pencils and everything to be participants in this process and project. Local first is what everyone from the president to our chair of our state senate is saying, and I think it's important that we do that. We look at local first, because they're the ones that are going to be paying this 27 cents a day on that. I thank you very much, Sheriff, and I look forward to talking to you and Rick and Cecilia and Mike and commissioners and the community about this, and a positive message being created on why we need this operation, or that money's out there, guys. We can just give up secondary road patrol, and everyone, let me see everyone raise their hand for that vote too. So that would definitely, that's your cost analysis on where you're at on this millage, to have an idea of what we need to do responsibly for this community.
Well, I still have a duty for secondary road patrol.
I don't disagree with you, sir, but it's an easy number to look at on the spreadsheet so
Understand.
commissioners can see it.
Understand.
Just like 27 cents is an easy number to look at.
Gotcha.
So yeah, no, my idea is not for that to happen by any stretch of the imagination. Just be aware that, everything else above that can be removed from administrative services, and we're still not there. Yeah, that's the scary part about what we're talking about doing. I thank you again very, very much.
Thank you all for your time.
So hang on one quick second here.
Sure.
So in anticipation of our next steps, what do you envision them, and when do you propose coming back to the board?
So I need to probably do an RFP, and get somebody in who can give me some hard numbers and come back to the board with those hard numbers. I'd like to do it as soon as possible. I wouldn't, preferably I'd like to do it next month. I don't think that's realistic, but I'll do it as quickly as we possibly can. I'll get a hold of CoPro and begin the process.
Be aware that this board is, while the discussion earlier, which we witnessed democracy at its finest on the property sale, we can have special meetings, and we would be honored to have a special meeting to discuss this with you, most definitely. I believe commissioners would step up to the plate and make sure they're here.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
That's how important this is to the community. So yeah, so you tell us when and we'll be here.
I appreciate that. Thank you, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the tentative CBA, and Michael's going to present. I trust everybody had opportunity to see the executive content staff report there. Good.
Good morning,
Questions?
Commissioners. Yes, we are here. The Attorney Referee Magistrate Association of Jackson County has voted to tentatively ratify a new CBA for February 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. This is in conjunction with the already approved economic stipulations that the board has provided to us, which was a 3, 2, and 2 in the corresponding years. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I would just add that at any time that the board felt need, we could go to closed session. We chose not to put one on the agenda because we didn't feel it was necessary. because we are within the parameters that the board has established initially, as well as the most recent contracts you've approved. This is consistent with that, the 322. Is Ray, here he is.
Roll call, please. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No, actually, the next item up is other items, which we have none. However, if you give me 5 minutes here, I just want to give, I want to give the board something to think about, because obviously, there's more discussion to be had in regard to how you have your meetings. Because you can have your meetings pretty much any way you want. But a little history, I think, is in order. I've been here 10 and a half years. When we first started, study session, so-called, was at that table over there. It was around that table we sat. There were not recordings. There were not minutes. Frankly, it wasn't even legal. I immediately said, we can't do this. This is wrong. I've been doing this for 20 years, almost 30 years now. We can't do it that way. It was good intentions, and it's great to be able to sit around and have that little conversation with coffee and donuts and stuff like that. But legally, we have to have minutes. Our standard here has been we record it, because this board has always been, Jackson County has always been very transparent. Frequently, we had audience here, but yet, nonetheless, and at the first few times we had those meetings, I didn't realize that we weren't taking minutes. I asked Amanda, hey, can I see some minutes? Well, we don't take minutes. I'm like, what? This is technically, legally, a meeting. We have to. Now, study sessions, that's a legal classification of meeting in the statutes. When you have a study session, you can't take votes. It's a study session. It's discussion. This isn't really when we have our meetings, 8 a.m., hang on. Legally, it's posted as a regular meeting. We call it study because our purpose has always been, and our intention is to discuss. Just have a nice discussion, all that sort of thing, and move things to committee and then full board. However, the reason we post it as a full meeting, a regular business meeting, is because we're a big organization, and especially after we took on a road department, they have to have decisions made more than once a month. And most of those big decisions are beyond my ability to approve. So think about it. We're a $150 million operation, 800 or so employees, and we spend millions of dollars every month. I don't have the authority to prove that. And it's hard to run an organization that large when you can make a decision one time a month, because committees can't make over 75,000. So really we're talking about one time a month, from what I'm hearing, is when we could actually make a decision. That's why we changed it the way we did. We said, okay, we need to move to the dais so it's public, it's recorded, it's available, it's transparent. And we'll try not to bring decisions where we need to have a decision. And believe me, I don't want to bring things here at study session and ask you to approve them, because think about it. I know no one really wants to do that. But at the same time, like the CBA we just approved, I could have said, sorry, we're going to make you wait another 2 weeks. Now, would that have changed the outcome? No. The board, we are in compliance with what the board had already established for contracts. But would I have made those employees wait 2 weeks before they got their pay raise? Yes. It would have had a detrimental effect on them because they've already approved the agreement. Therefore, I said, you know what? It's a minor thing. I'm going to bring it to the board. Legally, we can do it. So I think we should bring it to the board, knowing full well that I would receive some pushback on it. But I felt it's the right thing to do for not only the employees, but the organization and therefore the community as a whole. So we can do meetings any way you want, but if we're really going to go to a strict study session, we won't be able to legally make decisions. And that means only once a month can you make a decision greater than $75,000.
Well, you can call a special meeting.
Unless you have a special meeting. But my experience has been with special meetings is everybody has a life, many of you have jobs, and it is difficult to get a full body here when you have that. The exception, of course, when you have a thing like a millage or something, yeah, people are okay with that. But if I was doing that routinely every month, be assured I would have, you would have some consternation. So it's a difficult thing. I think we need to think about it more, we need to discuss it more, and we'll make the changes as you guys see fit. But I just want you to know there's consequences to those kind of changes. The road commission met as frequently as they want, they're a small group, but we don't have a road commission. You are the road commissioners. Well, but they had special meetings. There's just, what, how many of them were there? 3. It's real easy to get 3 people together compared to 9. So needless to say, I just want you to be aware that
There were 9 road. Before.
I won't argue that either way. I'm just saying that we just need to be thinking about what the consequences are and how we really want to do the people's business. Because I will do it any way you guys want, but just know there's costs associated with every way you do it.
Is this open for discussion, or was that just?
No, that's just me statement.
He interrupted me before I had a chance to explain the ground rules for discussion. So we have the possibility of 3 different meeting styles. We can have a full business meeting, very similar to Tuesday night on Tuesday morning. We can have a committee of the whole, which would allow for discussion but no votes. Or we can have a study session, again, if you terminology it that way, which again would be at no votes. The advantage of having the study session versus the format of Tuesday night. We function on Tuesday night at our business meeting much differently than we do at study session. We don't hesitate to call on people. People get to speak 3, 4, 5, 6 times to an issue. Each time a question arises in their mind, there's debate, which is what we want to be able to have on a lot of these things. This is where we get to actually formulate what we believe to be the direction that we'd like the administration to go, to put together their responses so it can go through committee and we can have further discussion to clarify, and then on Tuesday night, we vote. If the Board of Commissioners see it so fit as to just have a business meeting in the AM on Tuesday and one on Tuesday night, that's fine also. But we're going to have to choose some policies and procedures so that way the man running the meeting can allow for that type of discussion. You know, more open-ended we have here at study session. We like the free reign of this discussion. Everyone's opinion is considered. And with that, opportunity happens. With what Michael has done, by making it a hybridized business meeting, is that we're able to take action on items as they become available or if there's urgency without declaring a special meeting. That's what we've done by turning the study session into what we've turned it into. It's worked very, very well up until just recently. Now we've decided that we can't make decisions on Tuesday AM. We can discuss everything, but we would prefer that we talk about them Tuesday night. I don't have any problem either way. I have no feelings. I've operated under all 3 systems. I operated under a system where less than half of the board met in the administrator controller's office and less than half of the board met in the administrator controller's office. Okay, we had those kind of games played by one administrator. So whatever we feel is appropriate is what we can do. What are you asking me? Oh, yeah, I will get around. I was going to just put it out there how we feel we want to go. And what I really would like to see is each commissioner put together what they want, and then we will direct the Administrator Controller's Office to come back at next study session with our ideas, okay, and what they would look like, to have a better feeling for what's that, and then we can digest that, and we can talk about it amongst ourselves, and we can actually maybe have some conversation during the month. You know, we're all going to be together Monday, we're all going to be together, but remember, we can't arrive at decisions, but we can debate the questions of what we like. Starting with Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too have worked under different systems where study sessions were just that. They weren't posted, other than the fact just to let people know, because you want people to know what's going on in government. I like the system we have. It allows more free flow of ideas, and when we have things that need to be voted upon, and as when I was supervisor, that's how I did my study sessions. We usually didn't vote on anything, but if there was something there, again, just being able to make decisions one time a month isn't enough sometimes. So I'm satisfied with the way that we're doing it now.
I concur with the statements before. I think the system we have now works. It gives us the opportunity to get business done and keep the county going. Again, as I said before, one of the many complaints that I receive from constituents is that government moves slow, but this gives us an opportunity when presented on urgent matters to take care of something without a delay. I think this gives us the opportunity to do that. I see no need to change from the hybrid style of a study session, if you will. I guess I would just stress that when we do have items that come up for a vote during the study session, that we would continue to evaluate, and if there are urgent matters, we'd move forward and bring it to commissioners. But if there are measures and opportunities for us to delay to the studies or to the general board meeting, that we would do that. But again, this gives us an opportunity to continue to keep moving forward and take care of those urgent matters. So I see no need to intentionally slow down the work of the government at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing further.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This study session has to be posted, has to be recorded. Thanks, Madam Clerk, for being here. I think what we do is we call this what it is. And if we want to be able to act at this meeting, we call it what it is, which is a second meeting of the Board of Commissioners in a month. And if that's what we need to do, that's okay. And because we have stuff we have to do or things that need to be acted upon, I'm perfectly willing to act during this meeting, so long as the public realizes that it's not merely a study session, but it's a meeting where we're going to act. We're going to make decisions, and the public has a chance to be here, as opposed to a study session where something will be talked about, but nothing will actually be acted upon. I'm good with having a second meeting of the month, which is what this is, and let's just call it what it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My thoughts are very similar to Commissioner Pileski's. If this is what it is, and this is what it is, but be open and transparent to the public that is what's going on. Unlike Commissioner Williams, some of the complaints I have had from people that I interact with is, why are you guys making a decision at study session? And I've explained, well, it's actually a board meeting. They say, well, why does it say study session on it? That's a valid point. I operated in a township government as a trustee, where the study session was a study session. There was no action taken. The downfall to that is exactly what the chairman said. There were a lot of what I viewed as unnecessary emergency meetings called almost monthly. So I don't think that's a good system either. So I would be very comfortable with doing something with what Earl said, maybe just changing the title of the meeting.
We can call these meetings whatever title we want to call them. You can call them a study session, call them a second board meeting. The real issue for me, if we're going to be open and transparent, I want us also to be what I'll classify as consistent with the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. What happened today with voting on some issues, our minutes will let the public know what we did, what action we took. To me, that's not enough. We need to allow the public to have time to petition their government for redress of grievances, as in the First Amendment. That I don't like it where we just come here, we make a decision, never been discussed before, the public hasn't had time to react on it. That's different than the real estate sale. Yeah, the public had time, but to come here and just do things and pass it and let the public know, yeah, this is what we did, I don't like that. We need to present things in such a fashion that these are the ideas, these are the pros and cons, this is coming up next week to vote on, and that gives the public time to petition us. We have a lot of good ideas here. We don't have all the good ideas. Better ideas may come from the public. And so that's where I'm leaning to have a discussion and a vote at a different time so we can hear from the public on the issue. Thank you.
May I comment? Couple thoughts.
Thank you. I'll be real brief. Again, I like the idea of a hybrid meeting. My only concern is that in the event that we change the name of the meeting, that we would then be putting a lot more items on the docket to vote on. And I personally appreciate when certain items go through the process, because it gives us, well, not just me, but gives all commissioners the opportunity to take the time to vote on, or I'm sorry, to think on the measures, talk with constituents, whatever the case may be, that or that commissioners have the appropriate time to do homework. My concern is by changing the name that we would load up the first meeting as well as the second meeting, not giving much time again for commissioners to do homework. I'm all in favor for keeping the same format of the hybrid meeting, but during the hybrid meeting, that we would only be voting on urgent matters, things that need to be done today so that we're not losing money or things are going haywire, whatever the case is. Just urgent matters, I believe, should be the only things that we vote on during the study session. And I'm afraid that by changing the name, it would then open the door to, again, as I said before, load up the agenda where we're spending all day voting on measures that we've seen for the first time. So that would be my only concern.
Well, just a couple thoughts. One thing that occurred to me listening to everyone was that, and I think in keeping with the way it currently is, one of the things we could do that I never really, frankly, occurred to me until just now was when we have something that's coming to study session, I think we can, in our staff report, we should justify. We should, one of those opening things, justify why we're asking for you to consider it now. That way you don't have to think about or wonder why. It's clear why we're bringing it forward. I think that's something that, because we always have a rationale why we're doing it. In all honesty, I never thought of actually just writing it down, but we could easily put that on there. We do now, as you know, when you're looking at board docs, it does say whether it's an action or, full board or discussion. That is on board docs there. So I could easily add that, and I think that would go a long way towards, and department heads all know, because believe me, I tell lots of them no, that they know if they bring something to study session, there's potential hell to be paid. Because, and we know people don't like it, and we don't want to do it that way, to be frank about it. But I think I could easily add that to it, and we could see how that goes. The other thought that I had, and this was in regard to Commissioner Bear's thought there, and I appreciate your thoughts there of the public needing to know and so forth, but truth of the matter is, it's a representative democracy. They elected you because they agree with what your thinking is, and therefore you're empowered to make decisions on behalf of those people. And if they feel that you've done something in error, well, in my experience, and I'm sure it's yours too, that they'll let you know about it, and then we would have to potentially redress that. But it's not necessarily that they, beforehand, that's not the way their government is set up. It's, in my personal opinion. But if you're good with that, I will at least endeavor to put that on there, and we can see how that goes and go from there.
Well, I agree with our administrator on that we are a representative form of government. And I would ask, have you ever contacted your state representative or senator before a vote? Have you ever contacted your federal rep, your federal senator? While an issue is still being debated, have you ever petitioned your government to try to influence the decision of the vote? So yes, it is a representative government, but I don't want to do it in a vacuum. I don't want people just showing up here on study session, say, here's my stuff, here's my excuse for not bringing it last month and I need it approved now. Poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And yes, I will continue to give these people, anybody that comes here, I will continue to give them grief for showing up at the study session and expecting us to take action. I'll continue voting no on those things. And maybe eventually they will learn that they need to show a little respect. Show up in time so we can have a decent discussion. We can wait a week to hear back from our constituents. Then we vote at another time. To me, that's a big difference between private businesses and public business. What I've seen happen here over and over again in public business, I would have been fired for in private business. I don't know why we accept a lower standard than what the public demands of their employees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I promise this is my last time, but I want to, again, Commissioner Bear, I do, in a lot of ways, agree with what you're saying. If it can wait, it can wait. But I also want to just remind all commissioners that when something does show up on the agenda, if it's something that we feel like that it can wait, if it's not urgent, we do, before the agenda is adopted, have the opportunity to pull it from the agenda. So that would help. Again, to potentially alleviate that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing further.
Peter Blomith, 142 West Pearl Street. I want to note the two absences. Obviously, we have one commissioner who is still in Florida recovering from serious injuries. And we have Phil Duckham, who hasn't showed up again. And I think I'd like to see more regular attendance on that issue. I want to speak quickly about the issue that you were just discussing. Note that I am the only person representing the public who can show up in the mornings. Most people are at their jobs. So if you are going to have a morning session that is actually a business session and regarded that way, this is the second commissioner meeting of the month, a lot of the public is not going to be able to be here. I hope you take that into consideration. I want to double down on what Commissioner Kennedy said, that any millages that go on the ballot should go on the November ballot. This is absolute. I don't think there's any reason to ever put something that important on a primary ballot except to try to sneak it through. Finally, I want to talk about the Sheriff's Department a little. I really respect Sheriff Schutte. I really appreciated that presentation. I do not doubt that a new facility is needed. I spoke to him real quickly about whether or not the administrative offices could also be out on Shannon Road to save
30
my-
seconds.
And, the problem apparently is that, he has to be in the county seat, and that's here in Jackson. So if there are ways to manipulate that, that would be really valuable. And I'll save my other comments for your next full meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, I want to let you know, I really value your opinions, and I appreciate your steadfastness in your convictions, and I don't think anybody blames you for any vote you ever take. We appreciate that. So thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Beer?
As far as millage issues, they are important enough that I don't know how to accomplish this, but millages like this, I would like these to show any millage, whether it's for the parks, the animal shelter, for the sheriff. I not only think they should be on November, they should be on November presidential ballots. I'd like to fix it so that millage issues only come once every 4 years. And if you need a millage for something, get yourself organized, prepare it so it's ready to be put on the November ballot during a presidential election. You want the biggest output from your citizens, you do it then, once every 4 years. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing or hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed?